Welcome back to the Scaredy Cat Guide, my friends. My name is Ginny, and today we are talking about the Carousel of Progress in Disney's Magic Kingdom. If you're new here, this is the channel where we talk about Disney and anxiety, we talk about sensory issues, and really just anything that you might want to know if you're an anxious rider at Disney World, like me. Now, the Carousel of Progress is a much beloved older attraction here at the Magic Kingdom, and it is definitely one of my favorites. There isn't much to speak of when it comes to intense factors, but it's a pretty long show, and it's a very interesting ride system. So without further ado, let's dive into those details. This Magic Kingdom classic contains animatronics, a few very minor smoke and lighting effects, and a unique ride system, but we'll talk about that later. Now let's start off by talking about those animatronics. Now these are really the stars of the show when it comes to the Carousel of Progress. We will find roughly 5 to 6 animatronics per scene, and it's definitely worth noting that these are the older models. So of course they are prone to malfunctioning, prone to getting the jitters from time to time. And even though they definitely fall smack dab in the middle of the uncanny valley, they are still very friendly characters. They are not intimidating or scary really in any way, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention that this attraction does heavily rely on animatronics if you or someone in your party just doesn't really care for our shifty friends. Now, moving right along, let's talk about those very minor smoke and lighting effects that I mentioned. Now, overall, this is a really very relaxing attraction. We don't have any crazy sensory issues or anything like that, but we will find a few seconds of complete darkness on this attraction. Again, this is not framed in a scary way. All that happens is basically the family that we're watching blows a fuse, the entire theater goes dark, and we hear some of the characters as they replace the fuse and the lights come right back on. Again, it's not meant to be scary or intense or anything like that, but if you were not prepared for being plunged into complete and utter darkness, I could see it being just a little bit jarring. Now, on top of that darkness, we have other very minor sensory elements like thunder. There is a rainstorm that has, of course, those stormy sounds. Again, this won't bother most people, but my daughter, who really doesn't like those thunder noises, is definitely not a fan of this particular sequence. And last but not least, our last little sensory element is this little puff of smoke that we get from the oven. This happens in the very last scene where basically the oven's temperature gets accidentally set very, very high and the family's Christmas turkey is burned. Now, we don't have to deal with any fire alarm sounds or anything like that, but when the oven opens, you do get this little puff of smoke. It does have that kind of fake smoke smell that you might recognize from other rides in Walt Disney World. But overall, it really is a very harmless little effect, but I just wanted to mention it in case you have any sensitivity to smoke effects or things of that nature. Now let's talk about the big one here, and that is the unique ride system. Now, Carousel of Progress is aptly named because the theater actually rotates around the stage, much like a carousel. Now, because of this setup, a cast member will let you know as you take your seats that you will not be able to exit until the show has ended. Because it's the actual theater that is rotating and not the stage, it's not a typical Disney show where you can just walk towards the exit and make your way outside. Now, of course, just like with every other ride in Walt Disney World, there are emergency protocols, and if the ride were to break down or if there was a medical emergency, absolutely there would be a way to get you off. But under normal circumstances, you really are not supposed to leave the theater while it is in motion. Now, speaking of this ride system, let's talk about the specifics. Once again, this ride system consists of a rotating theater that seats around 240 guests. Now, there are no restraints of any kind, but you do have to stay seated for the entirety of the performance, which by Disney World standards is a pretty long time. So let's talk about that ride duration. The Carousel of Progress clocks in at a whopping 20 minutes long. Again, this is much longer than what you would find on most of the dark rides and the other attractions at Walt Disney World. However, for a stage show or something of that nature, it is pretty typical. Now, this show is broken up into 4 segments. Each of these is about 5 minutes each, and thematically, it has a very slow, meandering pace. So I would absolutely say that the Carousel of Progress has a high propensity for claustrophobia. Now, of course, this is just going to depend depend on you individually. Like I said, there are no restraints. You're not in a very small enclosed space. But if the idea of not being able to leave the theater for the whole 20-minute duration is something that makes you want to break out into hives, it's definitely something to consider. And now that you have all the facts, let's actually go hop in line. This one is almost always a walk-on, which is fabulous if you or someone in your party doesn't love to wait in line for a very long time. So let's go ride this together. You'll find the entrance to this attraction in the Tomorrowland section of Magic Kingdom. Now, this queue is extremely straightforward and really is not much of a line at all. You may be waiting for just a couple of minutes, but for the most part, you will just enter the queue and find yourself immediately in this little outdoor holding section right before entering the theater. Now, a new show starts every few minutes, so like I said, this is almost always a walk-on and you won't be waiting for very long regardless. Now, once these doors do open, a cast member will let you inside and you'll be able to find your seats in the nice air-conditioned theater. Now, from the outside, this looks like a very basic theater, just like something that you would find on any other Walt Disney World attraction or show. Now, as you're sitting in the seats, it doesn't really feel like you're the one moving. The seats don't have wheels or anything like that. It is quite literally the entire theater that rotates, so you really don't feel much as you slowly rotate from scene to scene. Now, once the show starts, you will find yourself right around the turn of the century, right around the year 1900. We find our family just as they are adjusting to new technology in their lives. Each segment does roughly follow the same sort of pattern. We basically see each individual family member as they are getting ready for a specific holiday. This first segment, for example, starts with Valentine's Day, and we see the ways that culture is progressing as time moves forward. Now, we will also find that little thunderstorm in this segment. It's really not super crazy or a violent storm by any means, but we will hear some thunder and the characters will remark on how it's raining cats and dogs outside. After this first segment, we will rotate, of course, and find ourselves in the 1920s. Now, this segment takes place during the 4th of July, and we catch up with our family once again as we see all the new little gadgets and technologies that's made their life that much easier. Now, this segment is where we will find that blown fuse and have those few seconds of complete darkness. Basically, as the family is getting ready for the 4th of July, a fuse is blown, and like I said before, we just get to listen in as they replace the fuse and go on about their business. Now, after this segment, we'll rotate again and find ourselves in the 1940s. Now, the holiday that we're celebrating this time is Halloween. However, don't worry, we don't have any super scary theming or anything like that. Now, the son and brother in this family is dressed up as a little werewolf, but again, it's not super scary or anything like that. And as expected, we catch up with how technology is changing their lives by the day. Now, finally, we will rotate one last time and catch up with our family at the turn of the 21st century. Now, this part is supposed to be much more current and even a little bit futuristic, but this ride is pretty dated. We find our family playing with a VR headset and having a very technologically advanced oven that can adjust the temperature by voice command. Now, this does end up in disaster, unfortunately, as the family accidentally sets the oven to a crazy high temperature and burns their Christmas turkey. Again, this is where we'll have that little puff of smoke, but overall, this scene is just very heartwarming and fun. Now, after this, the theater will rotate one more time, and you'll end up right back at the beginning where a cast member will tell you you are free to exit and you'll make your way back outside. And there we have it. What do you think about Carousel of Progress? This is definitely a very overlooked, very old attraction that is, for the most part, a very nice, relaxing time. However, with some of the claustrophobic elements and the long ride time, the fact that you can't exit the theater unless it's an absolute emergency can really add up to a pretty anxiety-inducing experience. However, I know for some people, this is just a very nice excuse to get a 20-minute nap in the AC. As always, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more ride reviews like it, don't forget to like, subscribe, stick around, stay a while. We would love to have you in our little community of anxious riders. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one.